Beyond the Mic with Sean Dillon.
We're joined in the start line by filmmaker, writer, producer, actor, painter, sculptor, and director of the movie Minamata, starring Johnny Depp. We welcome Andrew Levitas.
Hey, Sean, how are you, man?
Absolutely great, Andrew. Let's go beyond the mic. The story of Minamata is over 50 years old. Why was bringing this story up to today's audiences important for you?
Sure. So I had been a fan of Smith's work. I was aware of what had happened to Minamata all those years ago through Smith's work. And it all was, I think it shaped who I wanted to be as an artist and as a global citizen. I think that, you know, having an opinion and trying to connect with your work in a way that might be for the betterment of the average person around the world, it became part of who I was. And I think it was from this work years earlier. When I finally got to the moment where I was trying to decide what sort of a next project was, I was really deeply troubled by the fact that 50 years later, there are still folks in Minamata that are fighting the same battle, fighting to be heard, fighting to be seen. And even though this moment in time 50 years ago changed the world, and these heroic people were captured by Gene Smith's photographs, published in Life magazine, and the UN convened, there was a massive outpouring of support, and the world did shift. Here we are 50 years later, and there's still people fighting there. And even and parallel to that, in every town and every city in America and in every country around the world, there are industrial pollution issues. There are marginalized voices. There are people that are just struggling to be heard, to have their voices taken out from the shadows. And we're just getting beaten down by this stuff. And it felt that this was a moment to take this heroic story and push it back into the world, push it back into the consciousness, with hopes that we would all see ourselves in this community and realize that if we keep hope, if we keep love, if we keep compassion, we can find our voices, and we all as a collective can make a difference.
This story is filled with the darkness that W. Eugene Smith felt from his time as a war photographer to the darkness of Minamata, Japan, and the cover-up that was attempted. Is there an allegory to today?
Without question. And I should say that the thing that was so unique about Smith's work is that Smith was showing you the absolute lightness and the best of humanity juxtaposed in the moments that were captured of the worst in humanity, right? At the center of our film, in the center of the story in Minamata, you have a woman cradling her horribly deformed child, but you look at her face and it is full of love and compassion and joy. If you look at Smith's time, you mentioned his time in as a war photographer, you know, there are some GIs pulling a baby out of the rubble. And it's horrific that this is going on. But at the same time, these GIs that have been in war, who have been, you know, tasked to do horrific things for God knows why in each instance, they're holding a baby and they are showing that love and that hope and that compassion. And that's what we need today, right? This is a film that is entertaining and it is poetic and it is hopefully will be viewed as beautiful, but it's also meant to inspire and inform and remind us that we have it in us to make that difference and that we are part of a larger collective. You know, these big corporations and big money, they do everything they can to separate us. But at the end of the day, like, you and I are the same. We're all the same. We have the same makeup. And if we stand together and, you know, we can help each other. It's tough putting food on the table. It's tough getting to work in the morning. It's tough finding a job. It's tough surviving. But if we stand up as one community, we will see our world progress in a way that will be better for our children.
Andrew, it's time for the Rocky Nate. 8 random fast-fire questions. Answer with the first thing that comes to your mind. There is no pressure. From an Adelphi University guy to an NYU guy, what's the best place in New York?
My restaurant in Soho, that's called Lola Taverna. It's a Greek place, and it is great. I highly recommend it.
When making a decision, do you make a pro-con list, or do you just go with your gut?
Gut, always.
Who's your favorite actor?
Oh, gosh, there's so I guess I have to say Johnny Depp.
Who's the last person that gave you a smile?
and my kids this morning before I took them to school.
Your wife's a performer. I'm going to put you to the test. What is your favorite performance from your wife, Catherine?
She did a concert in, I think it must have been at the Royal Albert Hall, and we had just gotten together, and it was early days, and we were just head over heels in love with each other. And she sang A Night in Berkeley Square and dedicated it to me. And it was like, firstly, I love that song. She must have known. I don't remember telling her, and it wasn't part of her normal repertoire, but it was quite something. And actually, at the time, we didn't have kids yet. Obviously, we weren't married yet. And I had looked at an empty seat next to me and sort of imagined a young child, a young little girl. And a couple of years later, we had that young little girl, and it felt like that moment, something special happened there. So,
what chore do you hate doing?
All of them.
Same with me. How about your favorite day of the week?
Probably Friday, because we're almost at the weekend.
Is there a piece of art that you haven't seen live, but you would like to see in person?
Guernica.
It's time for the back half with Andrew Levitas Beyond the Mic. Andrew, who inspired you to be part of the Wilderness Foundation, and how has your work with them changed you?
Sure. Dr. Ian Player, who was the founder of the Wilderness Foundation, is the late Dr. Ian Player, was really one of the most important and inspiring conservationists probably throughout history, and is really responsible in many ways for all of the rhino that have been rewilded and moved around Africa, and the reason that you can go today and see them, this prehistoric species. He gave so much. His legacy was passed on to another incredibly inspiring person, Dr. Andrew Muir. And Andrew currently runs the Wilderness Foundation and has become a close friend. And aside from being a wonderful father and husband and friend, he spends every moment that he has looking to better other people's lives. And when pre-pandemic, that was based on how do you conserve these species? How do you conserve these lands? But with the Wilderness Foundation, as we've gone into a pandemic and there's been more hunger and more of a need, we as a foundation have pivoted to feeding people.
Andrew, why should people see this movie?
We all need to be inspired, uplifted, and you will see yourself or your friends or your loved ones or your neighbor in this film. And I believe and I hope that this film will give you a joyful and nutritious experience in the cinema experience, but also will fill you up in a way that hopefully makes you feel your most powerful moving into your day.
He hates doing chores, loves Fridays, and wants you to see his movie, Minamata. We thank director Andrew Levitas for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thanks, Sean.
And that, my friends, is a Beyond the Mic shortcut.